This is definitely the coolest way to solve this equation. Let's first square both sides. Yes, I know, even though in my original video I told you guys not to do so, but just check this out. On the left hand side, we will have 5 minus x, and then expand the right hand side, we first do 5 squared, but let's just keep it as 5 squared. And then minus 2 times this and that, and let me write down the x squared first, and then times the 5. Lastly, we add this squared, so that will give us x to the 4th power. This is not good because we have a quadratic equation since we have x to the 4th power. True that, but if you just focus on the 5, have a look. This is 5 squared, and then this is 5 to the 1st power, and likewise here we have 5 to the 1st power. With that said, why don't we look at this equation in terms of 5? If that's the case, then we can look at this as a quadratic equation in terms of 5. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and make the left hand side equal to 0. Let's subtract the 5 and plus the x on both sides, so we get 0. And let me write this down first. So we are looking at 5 squared. And then I'm going to factor out the 5 from here. So let me put plus parentheses, the coefficient here, and then there. So that's negative 2x squared minus 1. And then we multiply that by 5. And then we add x to the 4th plus x, and that's equal to 0. Now, ladies and gentlemen, quadratic equation in terms of 5. Let's use the quadratic formula. It works. 5, the input, is going to be equal to negative b, which is the coefficient of the 5. So let's write that down. And then plus or minus, still do the same thing. Square root of b squared. B is again negative 2x squared minus 1. And then minus 4ac. A is the coefficient of 5 squared, so that's 1. And c is the term that has no 5. So that's x to the 4th plus x. All divided by 2 times a, which is just 1 right here. And we just have to simplify this. 5 equals, distribute the negative, and then plus or minus here on the inside. If we expand this, we have both negative here, so you can just, factor that out and square that, so it's just really the same as positive. So we will end up with 4x squared, so that's to the 4th power, and then plus 2 times this and that, which is 4x squared, and then we add 1 squared, which is 1. Then distribute the negative 4, we have negative 4x to the 4th minus 4x. And then this is all divided by 2. Now, we just have to simplify the inside a little bit more. Have a look though. Here, 4x to the 4th power and that cancel. And in fact, if you look at the remaining term, notice if we have 4x squared minus 4x and then plus 1, we can factor it and we happen to get a perfect square, and that is just perfect. 2x minus 1 squared. So that goes on the inside of the square root. And then we still have to divide it by 2. Now, cancel the square and the square root, and technically we should put an absolute value around it, but luckily we have the plus minus right here already, so there's no need. And then let's just go ahead and split the equation. So we have to look at either 5 equals 2x squared plus 1 plus just 2x minus 1 all over 2, or the other equation with the minus. So 5 equals 2x squared plus 1, and this right here, minus 2x minus 1, and then all over 2. And now let's go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, continue. Here, for the first equation, that's 5 equals, on the top, this is just 2x squared, and then plus 2x, and then 1 minus 1 is gone, so that's okay, and then divided by 2. And then we just have to solve this quadratic equation. So we can reduce out the 2 right here, and then move the 5. So that's just equal to x squared plus x, and then minus 5, it's equal to 0. And then use the quadratic formula. I will tell you, we will end up with x equals minus 1 plus or minus square root of 21 all over 2. And for the other one, do the same thing. Here though, we will have 5 equals 2x squared minus 2x, and then this is technically a plus 2, and then all over 2. And then once again, reduce all the 2's. So this is a plus 1. And then subtract 5 to both sides. We are looking at x squared minus x minus 4 is equal to 0. By using the quadratic formula, we get x equals 1 plus or minus square root of 17 all over 2. Are we done? Well, not quite. Be careful. So now we have these two equations. Remember our original equation. This is square root of 5 minus x equals 5 minus x squared. So we have the square root part. Let's see, the graph is going to look like this. You move to the right 5 times, but you flip it, so it's like this. And then 5 minus x squared, that's an upside down parabola. That looks something down like this. So we can only have 2 solutions. Which 2 though? Well, we will have to remember that when we have the square root of anything inside, of course we're not talking about imaginary numbers here, it has to be greater than or equal to 0 because we're talking about the graphs. So that being said, we will have to make sure this portion here turns out to be non-negative. So we just have to plug in the numbers and double check. And I will just tell you, if you have the negative and also a negative here, that will actually make this expression negative. So you will have to get rid of that. From this expression, you will actually have to get rid of the plus because they will make this negative. So I'll just make a note. These are the values that are bad. So, ladies and gentlemen, finally our answers are x equals negative 1 plus square root of 21 over 2, and the other one is 1 minus square root of 17 over 2. And that is it.